Most people believe their lives are stagnant for lack of money, luck, or opportunity. They point to the economy, to their past, to their circumstances. They convince themselves they are merely actors on a stage they did not set. But the unyielding truth is that the most formidable prison has no bars. It is built of thoughts. The true adversary is not external. It operates silently, deep within the architecture of your own mind. It is the echo of limiting beliefs, the noise of unresolved fears, and the endless repetition of toxic mental habits you have practiced into perfection without even realizing it. The philosophy of mentors like Brian Tracy teaches a fundamental law of personal power. Your outer world is nothing more than a mirror of your inner world. If your mind is a war zone, your life will be a series of casualties. No strategy, no productivity hack, and no amount of brute force can ever compensate for a weak and contaminated mindset. The premise of our meeting today is the forging of a new reality, and this demands a new mind. Transformation does not begin when your world changes. It begins when you decide to fight the only battle that truly matters, the battle for control over your own focus. Today, I will give you the 10 laws of mental detoxification. These are not theories. They are weapons. And if you wield them, you will not just think differently. You will become different. The first law is the bedrock upon which all else is built.
Chapter 1. The Law of the Mental Fortress. Shield your mind from informational poison.
The first law of detoxifying your mind is to build a gate and become the guardian of what you allow inside. We live in an age of informational obesity. The modern poison is not a lack of information, but a tsunami of it. Notifications, sensationalist headlines, empty opinions, gossip. It is a constant deluge of digital sewage that does not nourish you, it drowns you. You do not become wiser. You become more anxious, more reactive, and weaker. Your mind, which should be a temple, has become a landfill. The pain of this pollution is a chronic exhaustion. You end the day with a fried brain, having accomplished nothing of value. You have jumped from link to link, from video to video, in a compulsion to consume that has left you saturated, but not wise. You have confused movement with progress. And this confusion is the greatest thief of potential in existence, because a mind full of noise is a mind incapable of creating, focusing, and executing. The root of this addiction is the belief that to be plugged in is to be ahead. It is the fear of missing out, of falling behind. Society has programmed you to believe that silence is a defect and that every free second must be filled with consumption. This is programming for mediocrity, because genius is not born in the noise. It is born in the silence of deep concentration. The consequence of an unprotected mind is the total loss of sovereignty. You cease to be the master of your destiny and become a puppet of algorithms. Your opinions, your desires, and even your emotions become dictated by what your timeline feeds you.
In the long run, you don't just lose a focus, you lose yourself.
Your inner voice is silenced by the deafening roar of the world. The solution is an act of radical discipline. You must treat the information you consume with the same rigor a monk treats his vows. The action is clear. Disable all non-essential notifications. Do a ruthless purge of your social media, unfollowing anything that generates anxiety or useless outrage. Establish fixed hours for consuming information, as if it were a meal. Outside these hours, your mind is fasting. And above all, before you click, watch, or listen to anything, ask the question of power: will this make me stronger or weaker? The transformation that occurs is profound. You cease to be a sponge absorbing everything and become a fortress that chooses what enters. Your mind becomes a sanctuary. The space once occupied by garbage is now filled with clarity, creativity, and the power of focus. A man with a shielded mind is not an ignorant man. He is a strategist. He does not know everything, but he focuses only on what matters. And this skill, in this chaotic world, is the ultimate superpower. Chapter 2. The Principle of the Sacred Path. Break the chains of comparison. The second law demands that you stop looking sideways and focus on the road ahead of you. Comparison is the poison of the soul, a silent disease that corrodes your self-confidence and destroys your peace of mind. You measure your worth using someone else's ruler, a ruler designed for a game that is not yours. The pain of comparison is a slow death. You see the other person's highlight reel, but you don't see the behind-the-scenes footage. You see the victory, but you don't see the blood, the sweat, and the tears. And by comparing your entire journey to an edited snapshot of someone else's life, you feel inadequate, behind, a failure. This feeling paralyzes you, fills you with envy or discouragement, and both emotions are poisons that prevent you from taking action. The root of comparison is the lack of a clear sense of your own purpose. When you don't know where you are going, anyone who seems to be moving faster intimidates you. You seek external validation because you lack internal conviction. You look to others to see if you're on the right path, instead of looking at your own inner compass. The consequence of living in a state of comparison is a life of imitation. You end up chasing goals that are not yours, buying things to impress people you don't like, and living a version of success that society sold you, but that leaves your soul empty. The end result is self-betrayal. You abandon your unique potential to become a second-rate copy of someone else. The action to break this chain is an act of self-awareness and discipline.
First, do a digital detox.
Eliminate any trigger for comparison.
Second, practice self-observation.
Every time your mind starts to compare, stop and say, his path is not my path. Her story is not my story. Third, define your own metrics for success. What does progress mean for you today? Celebrate your small, daily wins. It is the only way to build momentum. Your only competition is with who you were yesterday.
The transformation is the attainment of inner freedom.
When you stop comparing yourself, you step out of the bleachers and onto the playing field of your own life. You become the author and the protagonist.
Your energy, once wasted looking outward, is now 100% channeled into building your legacy.
A man who respects his own path has no time to measure the path of others. He is too busy building his own. And that unbreakable focus is what makes him unstoppable. Chapter 3. The Decree of Commanding Self-Talk. Reprogram your inner narrator. The third law requires you to seize control of the most influential conversation in your life. The one you have with yourself, 24 hours a day. There is a voice inside you. And that voice can be your greatest coach or your most cruel executioner. If your internal dialogue is one of self-criticism, doubt, and contempt, you will live as a saboteur of your own greatness. The pain of negative self-talk is that of living with an enemy who resides within you. It is the voice that, after a mistake, whispers, "I knew it, you're not good enough." It is the voice that, when faced with a challenge, screams, "Don't even try, you will fail." This voice poisons you, drains your energy, and ensures that even if you achieve success, you will never feel worthy of it. It is a cycle of self-sabotage that keeps you trapped in mediocrity. The root of this critical voice is not who you are. It is old software, a program installed in your childhood by the careless words of parents, teachers, or by past experiences of failure. You have heard this programming so often that you came to believe it was your true identity. But it is not. It is just a mental habit. And habits can be broken and replaced. The consequence of not rewriting this internal script is devastating. Your external reality will mold itself to your internal prophecy. If you tell yourself you are incapable, you will unconsciously avoid opportunities that would prove otherwise. You will become the architect of your own prison, repeatedly confirming to yourself that your negative view of yourself was correct. The solution is to become an active programmer of your own mind. First, you must listen to and identify the saboteur's voice. Write down the negative phrases you repeat most often. Second, question these phrases. Are they absolute facts or just stories you tell yourself? Challenge them with logic and with contrary evidence. Third, create your commanding voice. For every negative thought, have a powerful, rehearsed response. Instead of, "This is too hard," your commanding voice says, "I am capable of figuring out hard things." Instead of, "I failed again," it says, "This is feedback."
I am now stronger.
The transformation is a shift in identity. When you control your internal dialogue, you cease to be a victim of your own synapses and become the commander of your mind. You forge a resilient character, one that is not shaken by mistakes but strengthened by them. You understand that self-esteem is not something you have, it is something you build every single day by the way you speak to yourself. A man who treats himself with respect internally will inevitably command the respect of the world externally. Chapter 4. The Rule of Total Release. Cut the anchor of resentment. The fourth law is an act of power and emotional intelligence. You must cut the anchor of resentment. Holding a grudge is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. Resentment is a poison you drink, hoping the other person will die. The pain of carrying resentment is living chained to the past. Your mind becomes a time machine that only travels to moments of pain, replaying the betrayal, the offense, the injustice. It makes you bitter, cynical, and prevents you from truly connecting with the present. Your life force, which should be used to build your future, is spent keeping a past wound alive. It is a monumental waste of personal power. The root of resentment is a wounded ego and a false sense of justice. You believe that not forgiving is a way of punishing the other person, of maintaining a position of moral superiority. You believe that letting go of the feeling would be a sign of weakness, as if you were saying that what happened did not matter. But this is a trap of the mind. The consequence of not freeing yourself from resentment is that it becomes the lens through which you see the world. It contaminates your new relationships, your new projects, your new opportunities. You begin to expect the worst from people, to overreact to small mistakes, and to sabotage your own happiness because, deep down, a part of you is still stuck in that painful event. You become a prisoner of your own history. The solution is to understand the true nature of forgiveness. Forgiveness is not a gift you give to the other person. It is an act of liberation you grant to yourself. It does not mean forgetting or condoning. It means deciding that you will no longer allow the past to control your present. The action is a conscious decision. You can write a letter to the person, expressing all your pain, and then burn it as a symbol that you are releasing that energy. You must declare out loud, "I choose my peace over this burden. I choose to be free." The transformation is the recovery of your emotional sovereignty. You are no longer defined by your wounds. You are defined by your capacity to heal. The mental space once occupied by bitterness is now free for gratitude, creativity, and building the future. You forge the character of a man who understands that true strength does not lie in dwelling on the past, but in having the power to transcend it. Freedom is not the absence of scars. It is the decision not to let them dictate who you are. Chapter 5. The Mastery of Inner Rhythm. Abandon the disease of urgency. The fifth law attacks the most celebrated disease of our era, chronic urgency. Your mind is intoxicated by the belief that you must be faster, do more, be everywhere at once. This rush is not a sign of ambition, it is a symptom of fear. Fear of not being productive, fear of not being important, fear of falling behind. The pain of this disease is living in a constant, low-grade state of anxiety. Your mind is always in the future, planning the next step, and never in the present, executing with excellence. You answer emails while eating lunch, listen to a podcast while working, and in the end, you do neither well. You are always busy, but rarely effective. It is a life of shallow hustle that leads to burnout and frustration. The root of this hurry is the external metric of success. Society glorifies the hustle and confuses being busy with being important. We have internalized the idea that if we stop to breathe, to think, to plan, we are wasting time. It is a production line mentality applied to the art of living, and the result is a mass-produced life, soulless, shallow, and meaningless. The consequence of living at this insane pace is burnout. Your physical and mental health deteriorates. Your creativity vanishes, as it requires space and silence to flourish. Your decisions become reactive and poor, because you have no time for deep reflection. You build a life that may look successful on paper, but is a living hell to experience. The solution is an act of conscious rebellion against the cult of speed. You must become the master of your own rhythm.
First, practice essentialism.
Identify the few activities that truly generate 80% of your results and focus on them with monastic intensity. Second, schedule doing nothing.
Block time in your calendar for silence, for walking, for strategic thinking. Protect this time as your most valuable asset. Third, practice presence.
When you are working, work. When you are with your family, be 100% there. Your effectiveness comes from depth, not breadth. The transformation is the discovery that speed is the enemy of quality. By intentionally slowing down, you become more precise, more creative, and paradoxically, more productive. You cease to be a leaf in the wind, reacting to every demand, and become the captain of your ship, navigating with calm and purpose. You forge the identity of a man who understands that true power is not found in hurry, but in presence. And that an extraordinary life is not rushed, it is built, block by block, with intention and mastery. If what you have heard so far resonates with your soul, if you are fed up with the mental chaos and ready to forge a mind of steel, do two things right now. First, subscribe to this channel. See it not as a click, but as a contract of commitment with your own transformation. A pact to retake control of your mind. Second, go to the comments and decree, "My mind is my domain."
Do it for you.
It is a declaration of power that you reaffirm to yourself. Now, let us continue. Chapter 6. The Paradox of Real Power. Renounce control to gain mastery. The sixth law requires you to understand one of the greatest paradoxes of power. The need to control everything makes you a slave to everything. The mind that tries to predict every scenario, manage every person's reaction, and avoid any possibility of error is a mind that lives in a prison of anxiety. The pain of this obsession with control is a constant tension. You spend an immense amount of mental energy trying to manipulate outcomes that are, for the most part, beyond your reach. Your peace becomes conditional, dependent on everything going exactly as planned. And since life is, by nature, unpredictable, your peace is constantly shattered.
You live in fear of chaos, in fear of the unexpected.
The root of this need is a lack of trust. It's not a lack of trust in the world, it's a lack of trust in yourself. You do not trust your ability to handle adversity, to adapt, to solve problems as they arise. So, instead of strengthening your inner self, you desperately try to control the outer world. It is a strategy doomed to fail. The consequence of not abandoning this illusion of control is a small and rigid life. You avoid risks, flee from opportunities that don't offer guarantees, and become incapable of innovation. Your mind becomes fragile, breaking at the first sign that things are not going as they should. The irony is that in your quest for absolute control, the only thing you end up controlling is how limited your life can be. The solution is to practice strategic surrender. This is not passive resignation, but actively choosing where to focus your power. Divide any problem into two lists, things I can control and things I cannot control. Devote 100% of your energy to the first list, your actions, your mindset, your effort, and declare peace with the second. Instead of trying to control the outcome, focus on controlling your preparation and your response. Trust in your ability to adapt.
The transformation is the discovery of true power.
Real power is not in commanding the wind, but in masterfully adjusting the sails. You become fluid, adaptable, anti-fragile. Your peace ceases to be external and becomes an internal fortress that no storm can shake. You forge the character of a leader who does not fear uncertainty, because he has unshakable confidence in his own ability to navigate it. You stop trying to be a puppet master and become a master of yourself. Chapter 7. The Code of Relentless Language. Build your reality with words. The seventh law focuses on the most fundamental and overlooked tool of reality creation, your language. The words you use, especially in your internal dialogue, are not mere descriptors. They are decrees. They are the seeds you plant in the garden of your mind. If you plant seeds of doubt and weakness, do not expect to harvest a life of strength and success. The pain of a defeatist language is that it traps you in an identity that does not serve you. Phrases like, "I can't," "It's just the way I am," "I'm not good at this," function like self-hypnotic spells. The more you repeat them, the more your subconscious mind works to make them true, filtering reality to confirm this negative belief. You become the prophet of your own doom. The root of this poor language is habit and a lack of awareness. You repeat linguistic patterns you learned in childhood or from social groups without ever questioning their impact. It is easier and more comfortable to use the vocabulary of the victim, "things happen to me," than the vocabulary of the creator, "I make things happen." The consequence of not mastering your language is that it becomes the ceiling of your potential. You can have all the talent in the world, but if your internal story is one of limitation, you will never have the courage to act in a big way.
Your words build the walls of your comfort zone and keep you trapped inside.
The solution is a relentless linguistic audit. Become a conscious observer of the words that come out of your mouth and echo in your mind. Forbid the vocabulary of weakness. Replace "I'll try" with "I will do." Replace "if I succeed" with "when I succeed." Replace problem with challenge or opportunity.
Speak about what you want, not what you fear.
Frame your goals in positive terms and in the present tense. The transformation is understanding that you are a world builder and your words are your primary tool. By changing your language, you reprogram your identity at the deepest level. You stop reacting to reality and start commanding it. You forge the character of a man who speaks with intention, power, and purpose. And the universe, which responds to the vibration of conviction, begins to conspire in your favor, not because you are lucky, but because you have decreed your success into existence. Chapter 8. The Principle of Absolute Closure. Seal the leaks of mental energy. The eighth law is a law of integrity and power. You must become a master of closing loops. Every unmet promise, every postponed task, every avoided decision, every difficult conversation left pending is an open tab in the browser of your mind. And the more tabs you have open, the slower and more inefficient your mind becomes. The pain of open loops is a constant, diffuse anxiety. It is the feeling of being overwhelmed, even when you are doing nothing. Your mental energy is being drained by dozens of small debts you owe to your future self. You feel fragmented, unable to focus fully on a single task, because part of your attention is always caught on these loose ends. The root of procrastination and open loops is discomfort avoidance. It is easier to avoid the difficult task, the awkward conversation, or the consequential decision. We postpone short-term pain, not realizing that we are trading it for chronic, long-term suffering. It is an attempt to flee from responsibility. The consequence of living with open loops is the erosion of self-trust.
Deep down, you begin to stop trusting your own word.
You become the kind of person who says they will do something, but never does. This destroys your self-respect and puts you in a vicious cycle of inertia and guilt. A mind full of pending items is a mind that has no space to create the new. The solution is to adopt a mindset of absolute closure. Make a list of all the loose ends in your life. Everything. From the small household chore to the major career decision. For anything that takes less than 5 minutes, do it immediately. For the bigger things, schedule a specific block of time and treat it as an unbreakable appointment. For decisions, set a deadline and decide, even with imperfect information. Indecision is a poison. The transformation is the recovery of your power and your integrity. Every loop you close is an energy leak you seal. Your mind becomes clearer, faster, more powerful. You forge the character of a man whose word has weight, first to himself and then to others. You build a reputation for being someone who finishes what they start. And that reputation is an invaluable asset. A mind clear of pending business is a mind ready for victory. Chapter 9. The Discipline of Decisive Action. Escape the quicksand of overthinking. The ninth law is a direct assault on paralysis by analysis. You must escape the quicksand of overthinking. Thinking is essential. Overthinking is a disease. It is the act of drowning in an ocean of what-ifs, while remaining motionless on the beach of inaction. It is fear masquerading as intelligence. The pain of overthinking is the torture of indecision. You spend hours, days, weeks analyzing options, creating spreadsheets of pros and cons, seeking an absolute certainty that will never come. This mental rumination leaves you exhausted before you even take the first step. You live in a mental labyrinth of your own construction, and every thought is another wall that imprisons you. The root of overthinking is perfectionism and the fear of making a mistake. You have been taught that to err is bad, so you try to predict and prevent all possible errors through analysis. But the truth is that the greatest error of all is not to act. The inaction guaranteed by overthinking is a far greater failure than any mistake you could make while in motion. The consequence of living in this paralysis is a life of unfulfilled potential. The world does not reward the best ideas, it rewards the well-executed ideas. While you are thinking, someone else is doing, learning, adjusting, and winning. The clarity you so desperately seek is not in more analysis. It is on the other side of action. The solution is the discipline of imperfect, massive action. Adopt the principle that done is better than perfect. Set short deadlines for decisions. Give yourself permission to make mistakes and learn. Act first, and use the feedback from reality to correct your course, instead of trying to plot a perfect course in theory. The most powerful question to break free from overthinking is, what is the smallest action I can take right now to move forward?
The transformation is your liberation from the mental prison. You become a man of action, an experimenter, a learner.
You understand that confidence does not come from having all the answers, but from knowing you can handle any outcome. You forge the character of a general who wins battles not because he has the perfect plan, but because he is a master of adapting in the heat of combat. You discover that action is not the result of clarity. Action is the cause of clarity. Chapter 10. The Master Law of Unbreakable Purpose, the central pillar that shields your mind. We arrive at the 10th and most fundamental law, the pillar that supports all the others.
You must live guided by an unbreakable purpose. A mind without a clear why, without a greater mission, is like a skyscraper without a foundation.
No matter how impressive it looks on the outside, it is destined to crumble in the first storm. The pain of a purposeless life is a feeling of emptiness, even amidst success. You achieve goals, make money, receive applause, but you feel that something essential is missing. You are easily shaken by criticism and obstacles, because there is no greater reason to anchor you. You live a reactive life, chasing what is popular or what is expected of you, not what your soul cries out for. The root of this disconnection is that society trains us to focus on the what, the car, the job title, the money, and the how, the strategy, the hard work, but rarely teaches us to find our why. The why is your reason for being, your unique contribution to the world. Without it, all achievement is hollow. The consequence of living without purpose is mental vulnerability. Without a clear filter for your decisions, your mind becomes an easy target for comparison, anxiety, and noise.
You live adrift.
And the final destination of this aimless journey is regret. It is looking back and seeing a life of great effort, but little meaning. The solution is an archaeological dig into your own soul. You must ask yourself the hard questions. What do I want to be remembered for? If money were no problem, what would I do with my time? What pain in the world bothers me so much that I feel a calling to solve it? Your purpose is not something you invent. It is something you uncover. Once discovered, write it down in a clear, powerful sentence. This will be your personal constitution. The transformation is the most complete of all. When you live for a purpose, your life gains a new center of gravity. Your mind becomes a laser tool, focused on your mission. Purpose becomes your decision-making filter, your inexhaustible source of energy, and your armor against adversity. You no longer need motivation. You have a calling. You develop a powerful calm, because you know that every step, even the difficult ones, is part of your journey. A mind aligned with a purpose cleans itself. It has no time for the trivial, because it is occupied with the transcendent. Conclusion. The final decree of the sovereign man. We have walked through the 10 laws of mental detoxification. But you must understand this. This is not a one-time fix.
This is the beginning of a new way of living.
It is your declaration of mental independence. Clearing your mind is not about reaching a state of perfection where you never have a negative thought. It is about developing the master's discipline of not allowing that thought to become a permanent resident. It is about becoming the guardian at the gate of your mental garden, pulling out the weeds with speed and precision.
This is the ultimate act of self-respect.
It is the decision to stop blaming the world and to take 100% responsibility for your internal state.
Therein lies true power.
So, as we finish, do not leave here with more information. Leave with a new identity. The identity of a man who is the master of his mind, and therefore, the architect of his destiny.
The noise is gone.
The clarity reigns.
My mind does not control me. I control my mind.
My past does not define me.
My actions define me. My will is my law. My focus is my power. My destiny is forged by me. Now and forever.
I am in control.